All right, and welcome to another episode of the IDF I Was Doing podcast. And today we're actually diving into day one of the Funnel Hacking Live 2024 virtual event. And trust me, you do not want to miss this. So for those of you who don't know, Russell Brunson and his team over at Clickfunnels have actually put together one of the most highly anticipated marketing events of the year. And we're talking, it's 4 days of jam-packed content designed to transform how you think about funnels, marketing, and entrepreneurship as a whole. In today's review, I'm actually not just summarizing this event. I'm going to give you my personal thoughts, opinions, and some hot takes on these sessions, because day one was all about the mindset shifts and the strategies to unlock different opportunities. And Russell actually really even kicked it off with a State of the Union address, talking about Click and some of the surprises that they have coming out with. And we heard from a bunch of incredible speakers who just dropped a lot of really good gems on how to dominate online marketing without needing a big social media following. Now, stay tuned because I'm going to break down the sessions, let you know what stood out to me, and whether or not these strategies are actually as revolutionary as they make it seem. So if you're ready to learn a little bit more, let's dive in.
How can a single book be worth $1.5 million? In a hidden corner of the world, a collection of unparalleled wisdom has been discovered. This book, and the story behind it, has the power to revolutionize your approach to success. Written nearly a century ago and lost to time, this book contains the foundational principles that have shaped the lives of the most successful people in history. Only a select few have had the chance to see it, but now you can too. This isn't just a book, it's a priceless masterpiece that holds the key to unlocking your potential. Are you curious? Then go to idkwtfpodcast.com/book or click the link in the show notes below to see the full story and find out why this book is considered a priceless treasure as well as how it can influence your life forever. Again, check it out at idkwtfpodcast.com/book.
So to start off, I'm actually going to let you know I've never gone to a funnel hacking live before, and I do not use ClickFunnels at all. I've known a little bit about it. I've watched it. I do understand that funnels are really, really important, but I've always been kind of the mindset that especially newer entrepreneurs, which are the primary people I help, doing something as complicated as ClickFunnels is going to be so overwhelming for them. And there's a lot of easier ways. For those of you who don't know what a funnel is, the way that I explain it is it's basically the process that a customer goes from not knowing who you are as a business to being a paying customer. Every business has a funnel. Every entrepreneur has a funnel, and everyone who's resistant because they've heard so much like hoopla about like what a funnels are and how complicated they can be, they don't have a business. Anyone with a business has a funnel, and if you don't understand how that customer flow works, you're not going to get clients, and that's one of the reasons you're not getting the clients that you're looking for. Now, I will say Russell did not invent a funnel because a customer journey has always existed, but he really did perfect and revolutionize the way that digital marketing is done with his business that kind of puts everything together. But again, it's been really clunky. It's a great product, but it's not for most new entrepreneurs because it's just another thing that is really, really hard for them to use at the beginning. So, but I've seen a really marked shift in the industry over the last few years, especially now that there are so many new entrepreneurs starting out and launching businesses and creating courses and launching coaching programs, that I felt like it's really time to take a look at a few of the different companies out there. And Russell's the biggest, he's done it the best for the longest, that I figured I would start with this. And I was really lucky to get into the Funnel Hacking Live event. And that's really why I wanted to do a review on this. As you guys know, I've normally done reviews on Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and their events because I do feel like they are generally the best at teaching the new principles to entrepreneurs. And so I really wanted to see the contrast of how Russell Brunson does it. And it's a very large contrast. I'll kind of cover a little bit about what they covered. I'll go through my notes of the event, and then I'm going to give you my opinions on what they talked about and how it relates to the entrepreneurial industry as a whole. So basically, they always start with an MC, which I think is one of the best things that if you do events, it's really, really difficult because you got to have someone who's, passionate about you. But having an MC to kind of rev up the crowd and give you a break as a speaker is such a cool thing to have. And they've kept the same MC since the very beginning, which is really cool. Russell does seem really loyal in his business. He's got a lot of people from the beginning. He seems to really, really care about his community, which is what has made him so big. But the fact that they have had the same MC for every event from the beginning, I think is actually really cool. And so what the MC covered, he said, what's really cool about this event, this is the very first Funnel Hacking Live that was completely virtual or mostly virtual. They had a bunch of people in-house that probably paid $100,000 for their tickets to be there. But so this is the first one they've done. What's really cool is Eric Worre is one of the big network marketing guys. He built himself a studio in 2020 after Tony Robbins commissioned the first kind of like crazy Zoom virtual studio. They created this whole industry, and a few other entrepreneurs have come together. Tony Robbins, essentially built a company to build this kind of warehouse studio. And Eric Worre is one of the big network marketers who came together and built his own studio as well based on that template. It's a little bit smaller, or probably a lot a bit smaller, but it's really neat to see these events and these studios that came out in 2020. But kind of watching the event, the one thing I will say is I noticed that the audio visual team is not nearly as good as the Tony Robbins audio visual team that have it like dialed in perfectly. There was a lot of camera mistakes. There were some audio mistakes, and it's funny to see just the differences between a really well-oiled machine and then some people who are renting someone else's studio and trying to like do it. It's just a funny thing to me to see on the back end. But what's really neat is, they have it covered now that we have AI also. They have it in 61 different languages, and it's being broadcast in 12 different time zones. And again, what you want to do, as Dean says, marketing is attracting the people that you like and repelling the people that you don't. And the MC at the beginning covers, hey, this is for you if you've got a growth mindset, if you're not satisfied with average, if you're someone who's destined for more. It's really important to enroll people and say, hey, you're here and this is for you if you are this kind of person. And they've had over 100,000 users visit these Funnel Hacker Live events, but only of the 100,000 users, only 5,000 have ever been to a live event. So this is the first time they've done it virtual, and it's really cool. And what they did was they actually, to get as many people there as possible, they had a really crazy offer, which is if you put in your credit card now, you do not have to pay anything until the event is over, and you only pay if you feel you got value at the event, which is one of the neatest, irresistible offers that I've ever seen. So, and again, the MC is designed to get people energized, get them enrolled, make sure that set the expectation for the whole event. And he did a really, really good job. Another thing he says is this is designed to be an accumulation effect. If you miss a little, you're going to miss a lot. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll come in, they'll kind of half pay attention because we're on Zoom. So we're eating, we're walking around. But really, it's important to treat these Zoom events that are so packed full of information, especially when you paid for it, as a live event, like you're actually there. And so what was neat is this is a 9.5 event and it's why it's completely virtual or mostly virtual, because they're transitioning back to a beginning of the year event and they didn't want to have like a year and a half off. So they're doing this kind of like mid-year event in kind of one of the slower times for entrepreneurs, which is typically summer. Things kind of slow down for people in our personal development industry. And then Russell came out on stage. He told the story about what really changed his paradigm, which was a very early digital marketer back in the early aughts or the early 2010s, who sold 1,000 copies of a course that cost $1,000 each, and that he sold $1 million in essentially a weekend. And Russell was like, whoa, that's crazy. And this is kind of what really, really got him obsessed with figuring out how this can be done and how it can be recreated. And then he told the story about he tried it his first time. He lost a bunch of money. He had some sales, but it cost him more to make those sales than he actually made from them. And really, it's just the whole thing where a lot of people will try one thing and say, hey, I'm not rich, so I quit. But you have to iterate. You have to try a lot of different stuff. If you think you're going to make it rich on your first one and you don't succeed and then you quit, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to be ready to fail a bunch of times in order to finally hit the thing that wins. And he did give a quote from Napoleon Hill to kind of really define this. There's a quote that says there's two things you need. You need a definite purpose and you need a burning desire. And a lot of people are missing one of those two things. They might have their definite purpose. They know exactly what they want to do or they should be doing, and they don't have that burning desire. So they don't go through with it because they feel like, well, I should be doing it this way. I know exactly what I should be doing. And then they don't do it because there's no desire. Or they have this huge desire and they're like, oh, I just want to do something. And they try all these different things and they never do one specific thing. So they're jumping from item to item to item and never letting something hit because they don't go through it long enough. And I've definitely seen with entrepreneurs I work with, there's a lot of those two categories. A lot of people know what they should do and they just don't care enough to actually do it. And then a lot of people are so excited, but they won't stick with one single thing. And the biggest thing he says is the answer is always there. Everything you could possibly want really does exist in this world, but only if you show up. If you take time off, if you don't see it, you're not going to learn it, or you don't utilize it, what you get won't work. So you really have to stay committed just for a freaking bit. And then we actually really got to hear the story. I've read the story. I've seen Russell live, but I would actually never hear the whole story. I've never heard the whole story of how he totally built his company. I did a podcast episode recently where I did cover his journey, but I missed a ton of stuff because I hadn't heard it firsthand from him in totality. And it just seems ubiquitous. It's one of those other things where he was struggling. He sent out an email. He found his partner, Todd, who just happened to read the email. They came together. They worked hard for a while. They had a bunch of mistakes, a bunch of failures, and then they had something that fired them up and they got it done. They went really into depth with the story and it's really good. I'm not going to give it justice, so I'm not going to repeat it. But I am just always really impressed with how these things are destined to be, or they feel destined to be, but only because actions are being taken. And when actions are taken, the things that need to happen just seem to happen. And so because of these choices that they made, these actions that they took, ClickFunnels has generated $12 billion in revenue. And that's not money they've made themselves. That's money entrepreneurs on the platform have made using the platform. And they've had 2,500 people enter the 2 Comma Club, which means they're making $1 million. 2,500 millionaires because of this platform. 343 $10 million earners. 105 $25 million earners. And 9 people have donated more than $1 million to charity, which is absolutely crazy. And the biggest paradigm shift I think I took from this is funnels are the exact opposite to companies like Amazon, Wish, and Temu. And there really in this world are only 2 businesses left. There is the discount companies that get the cheapest product to you in the fastest amount of time, making that as user-friendly as possible. But then a funnel provides the best customer experience to the end user to get something much more involved, whether it's a service, whether it is a product. And it's designed to give the best experience, to give someone exactly what they're looking for. So they're not endlessly scrolling through thousands of products that are cheaply made and mass produced. And that's a really cool way to think about it that I haven't thought about it before. So again, the MC came back out and he says, the thing that we all need to hear is often we need to, no matter how good you think you are, it's important to step back and remember the basics. So he brought out one of the speakers, Katrin Jones-Lish. I hope I said that right. And she really broke down what's a funnel and why do they work. She was a really good speaker. It was interesting for me because a lot of this is for ClickFunnels users. So they're expecting that you have a big base knowledge of what ClickFunnels actually is. And so this first day actually felt way too technical for me. It wasn't overly motivating or overly interesting. There were a lot of really good takeaways, but usually the first day of a multi-day event is really designed to pump you up and fire you up. And this one did feel too technical because she went over a lot of the technical aspects of what a funnel is, and she showed some slides of like old ClickFunnels that weren't interesting to me at all. But a really good takeaway that she did. So she has revolutionized using ClickFunnels, and she's, a multi-million-dollar earner. And what she said is Russell works in libraries. In his brain, he loves collecting information, getting it all in one spot, and then kind of using that collected information to make choices out of that. And he's always kind of firing and going. Catherine works in checklists where she needs that information, but she has to distill it down into specific lists of like what to do next. So she took what he did and really systematized it. And so she gave a really good talk on just how to do that specifically. The one other thing she said is you don't need every step planned out, but you do need a general idea of where you're taking people. And my biggest takeaway from her is checklists, no matter how long they are useless without a what, why, and a when. And so the example that she gave was telling her son to build a weird ergonomic chair, which doesn't really look like a chair. It's when you put your knees on and sit kind of weird. And if she had just said, hey, son, build this for me, he was going to have a really, really hard time doing it because he didn't know what it was. It doesn't really look like a chair. He doesn't even know why she wants it because, he's a child and doesn't understand that backs hurt when you're sitting too long. And if he doesn't know when it needs to be built by, he's going to put that off for as long as literally possible. So what you really needed to say was, hey, what is it? It's a chair. It's ergonomic and it's shaped weird. The why is because it really helps support my back and makes it so my joints don't hurt every day. And the when is, hey, I need this like immediately because I'm in a lot of pain. And the longer I don't have this chair, the more pain I'm going to be in. So I thought that was a really, really good thing to consider, especially whenever you're giving anyone instructions on anything. You really need a clear what, a really clear why, and a really clear when. And she did cover a lot of other good things, but I'll kind of breeze through that because there was a lot of technical stuff in there as well. But the big thing that we reiterated once again is that you have to be constantly trying and iterating things. What Russell's biggest success was launching his one funnel away challenge. And he said he went through probably 300 to 400 different iterations before he found that one. And he says, running this business for, I think, more than a decade, he's only had 3 funnels that have really built his business to what it is today. And so if you're not constantly trying things, you're never going to find the one that hits. Then someone else came out named Anthony Trucks, and he was actually my favorite speaker of the day. He absolutely killed it. He's a former NFL player. He told a really good story, and a few of the big takeaways I had for him, without just kind of repeating everything that he said, was that for a lot of us, especially when we're coaches, if we're like me, an accountability buddy or kind of business partners, it's our job to give you everything that we possibly can. And you, as a listener, as a viewer, as a client, it's your job to take it and actually utilize it. If you take in a bunch of information and you're not utilizing it, he says you are an ask hole, right? So we don't want to be ask holes. We want to actually do the stuff that people like us are investing so much time into helping you. And it's still your job as the receiver to implement it. And a lot of times, the reason that people don't implement it is because we're not nervous of failing necessarily. We're actually nervous that other people are going to see us fail. So there's things we want to do, but we don't necessarily want to be seen doing it and failing. So he gave some really good frameworks. And again, he asked the question, have you ever been excited to do something, but when you first started doing it, you weren't good at it? That happens to all of us, but most people do one of two things. Most people quit, and others lean in and try harder. You can never obtain or sustain a life above the identity that you have for yourself. So if things get hard, you're going to quit and revert back to your identity. But if things get hard and your identity is above that place that you're trying to be, you're going to lean in and just work until you get this thing that is your core identity. He gave another framework where really there's four cores to everyone. There's the things that they think, there's the actions they take, there's the environment that they live in, and the identity about themselves that they have. The only thing we can really, really change is the actions we take. The cool thing about being human is we can take actions that are outside of our thoughts. We can take actions outside of the environment that we're brought up in. We can take actions that go against our core identity that we believe in. And if you take enough actions and get enough outcomes, you can actually change your environment, your thoughts, and your identity. But so often we have to do these actions that go against what we deeply have ingrained in ourselves to get to a place that we deeply want to be. He explained that a lot better, but that was a really powerful. And again, that was Anthony Trucks. That was the core of the day. It was a long day, honestly, for a first one. I think it was like 7, 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10. It was at least 4 hours for that first one. And I mean, this day two was even longer. But it was my main feelings on it are the entrepreneurial world specifically is rapidly changing because of AI, because of the different companies out there, because of how much competition is happening now, because of social media algorithms. Everything about being an entrepreneur is different than it's ever been. And it's almost changing monthly, if not daily. This was a really good event, or at least a good first day to kind of see some of the inner workings of how entrepreneurs who do it completely different than me operate. And it was good to see because it's confirmed some of my beliefs about where everything is going. I actually really believe it's more important now than ever to use an all-in-one CRM, web page builder, calendar, scheduling link. I've been very resistant to them my entire entrepreneurial journey. But now I actually feel, because it's hard if you have everything in one place, that place can go away. Clickfunnels could go out of business. Kajabi could go out of business. And then your entire business crumbles because of the platform that you've built is gone. But I actually do think it's more important now than ever to consolidate everything to get a really clear, consistent business because customers, clients, and consumers are more hesitant and more skeptical than they've ever been. So if the brand isn't top notch, it's very easy to not get the sale you might have otherwise gotten 5 years ago. I don't know if ClickFunnels is the right one. I'm very impressed with how community focused ClickFunnels is, how really passionate about the whole industry that Russell Brunson specifically is. That's something I've always liked about him, as you can really tell he's just a nerd for the industry. And he seems to employ a bunch of nerds for the industry as well, which is kind of cool. But all in all, I think it's a really, really good event that's put together really well and honestly dramatically better than I expected. I'm excited to go through the next few days. You'll see my reviews and recaps of them coming up here soon. And so thanks for listening. So if you do have any questions, comments, I'm really curious about what you thought if you were able to make it. And if you didn't make it, if you've been to any of the ones in the past, I would love to hear any of your feedback, or if you use ClickFunnels, what you think about it, because I don't. So feel free to share that with me. I look forward to seeing you guys on day 2, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Are you drowning in tasks, feeling stuck and overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated with your business? Have you been spending hours each day with no real results and confused about exactly what to do next? Are you feeling a bit lonely because you don't quite know how to find the support you're looking for? Well, I understand how you're feeling because I went through this for years. I'm David B., and I'm here to help with the best solution to get you out of this funk. Now, Tony Robbins says to create the product you always wish you had. And really, I always yearned for a knowledgeable friend who I could message for answers, hacks, or ideas. But all I found were $1,000 video courses or gurus charging hundreds for an hour of coaching, where they ended up just trying to sell me something else anyway. That's why I created my monthly unlimited teamwork sessions, to give you the support I wished I had at a fraction of the cost and exponentially more value than anything out there that's similar. Get started with me today and enjoy virtually unlimited access to my personal cell phone number every day with no contracts, no commitments, and you'll have hands-on support whenever you need it. You can work with me as your personal mentor, your assistant, or your accountability buddy, always just a message or a phone call away. Imagine not having to purchase another book, another online workshop, or some masterclass because you can just text me, David B., your buddy, who has been at the forefront of this industry for a decade. And because this is so personalized and it's dramatically less expensive than you'd ever expect, spots are very limited. So don't wait. Go to idkwtfpodcast.com/David B. and say yes to your success today.